The first item for a recommendation is item 6, so hopefully John will be with us by then. Good morning, everybody. It's 10 o'clock and very welcome to the Dorset Council Harbours Committee on Wednesday, the 29th of September 2021. We are continuing online meetings as the Dorset Council protocol. This was decided at the annual meeting of Council on the 4th of May. All Council meetings that are not executive in nature will continue to be held virtually. Whenever a decision is required, committee members will express a minded to decision in respect of recommendations set out in officer reports, with decisions being taken under officer delegated authority in the light of minded to decisions expressed by those members in their virtual meetings. So that is the format for today. And John Selgreen, Corporate Director of Place, will be our delegated authority officer today. We will have a comfort break of between 5 and 10 minutes, around about, I think, about 11:30, depends on the progress through the agenda. I would now like to welcome everybody and members of the public who are listening in or dialing in. We will have a roll call of members now, please, if you can respond, and I will just go in the order I've got them on my list. So Rob Hughes, Councillor Rob Hughes, Vice Chairman.
Yes, good morning, Chair. I'm here and present this morning.
Thank you. Councillor David Gray.
Yes, good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Councillor David Gray, thank you.
Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Good morning, Chairman. Councillor Louis O'Leary here.
Thank you. Councillor Mary Penfold.
Good morning, everyone. Mary Penfold here.
Thanks, Mary. And Councillor Sarah Williams.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah. And our two independent members, Lee Hardy.
Good morning, Lee Hardy.
And William Elwood.
Morning, Chair. William Elwood here.
And then I will go through the officers present. I'm not sure if John Selgreen is here yet. I expect him to be shortly. Karen Punchard, Corporate Director for Place Services.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Ken Buchan.
Yeah, good morning,
Manager.
everyone.
Paul Ackrell, Service Manager for Finance.
Morning. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Jamie Joyce, Weymouth Harbour Master.
Good morning, Chairman.
Thank you. James Radcliffe, Bridport and Lyme Regis Harbour Master.
Good morning, everyone.
Matthew Penny, Lead Officer for the Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management.
Morning, Chair. Morning, everyone.
Morning, Matt. Claire Connolly, Finance and Admin Manager at Weymouth Harbour.
Morning, everyone.
Lara Oldtree, Legal Services Manager.
Good morning, Chairman.
Thank you. And Denise Hunt, our Democratic Services Officer, looking after us today. And Becky McGowan, who's doing the technical side. Denise, item 1, apologies.
Morning, Chairman. I've received apologies from Andy Sargent, who's Chairman of the Weymouth Harbour Consultative Group, and William Heaps, the designated person. And Councillor Ray Bryan will be joining the meeting slightly later this morning.
Thank you very much. The minutes of the last meeting are not included on this agenda as they cannot be approved as the committee is technically sitting informally. That's just an observation. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Members, if they have any declarations of interest they wish to make. And Denise, I would like it to be noted, please, that I am a mooring holder at West Bay Harbour.
Chairman, could I declare an interest as Chairman of SCOPAC?
Thank you, Mary. Are there any other declarations of interest? No? Right, we move on to item 3, public participation. Public speaking has been suspended for virtual committee meetings and public participation is being dealt with through written submissions only, but other councillors may attend in present who are not committee members and put their question, which has already been submitted. So we welcome now Councillor Kate Weller. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, committee. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I have some concerns and some compliments to share with you. My concern is that the removal of a designated pilot for Weymouth Harbour, albeit a very part-time pilot and not needed for many years, the harbour ceases to be a competent harbour authority. During my 20-year plus involvement with Weymouth Harbour, it was always impressed upon me by every harbour master, good or bad, that we should not risk losing this designation. Can someone confirm for me that Weymouth is no longer a designated competent harbour authority? Can you tell me whether an economic impact assessment was undertaken on this? It's my belief that the loss of that designation seriously impacts on the future of the harbour, both economically and to its reputation. Weymouth is an historic harbour, significant in the protection of Britain since medieval times, with a long and well-regarded Royal and Merchant Navy heritage. What is the result of this loss upon Weymouth Town Council pursuing the possibility of a ferry service in the future, however small? Have those councillors pursuing this project been made aware? Are they wasting their time and effort? I welcome the publication of the strategic plan for Weymouth Harbour and congratulate you all on your work. I'm disappointed that it's not more robust and imaginative, however. Finally, I congratulate the Weymouth Harbour Master and his team on their management of the harbour budget. I'm delighted to see that a designated reserve has been created for the dredging of Weymouth Harbour. This is something that the committee pushed for over many years and is long overdue. Well done and thank you all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kate. That's a complex combination of questions, and I look now to Karen Punchard to respond.
Thank you, Chair. Karen Punchard, Corporate Director for Place Services. Thank you for the questions, Councillor Weller. I can confirm that Weymouth Harbour is a competent harbour authority and still has the statutory powers relating to the provision of pilotage within our statutory harbour area. And as a competent harbour authority, we abide by the Port Marine Safety Code Guide to Good Practice, and in particular the responsibility for keeping the need for pilotage and the service provider under constant and formal review. The pilotage directions have been reviewed and updated to include the provision of Portland Port providing pilot transfers for Weymouth. So the formal review has been undertaken with an independent consultant, and you'll see on the Harbour Committee forward plan that this report is due for discussion by the Harbours Committee in June 2022. The harbour strategy has been widely consulted upon in its development, and this includes using the 3 harbour consultative groups and their constituents and the harbour related competent and relevant authorities. We're at a stage now where additional views are required from harbour users and the general public who have not yet had the opportunity to comment. We would therefore welcome yours and other comments on how the strategy can be improved. It's on the agenda today, and it's proposed that the draft strategy goes out for a period of wider consultation, after which an updated final version can be approved by the committee. And with regards to your final remarks regarding the Harbour Master and all the related staff's management of the harbour budget, we thank you very much for the compliment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive answer, as well as the detailed question. Thank you, Kate. And
thanks very much, Mark. And Karen, thank you very much. That's very reassuring. I appreciate that answer.
Thank you. There are no other excuse me, no other public questions. So we now move on to item 4, which is the chairman's report. I would like to report that we have re-advertised and extended the application period for independent members. We are looking to appoint 2 more independent members following the resignation of one and the end of a long and successful period for Jim Clark for his position. So that is being extended, and we will update the committee as and when we have more news on this. Excuse for the slight frog in my throat. I would also like to report last week the Local Government Association's Coastal Special Interest Group held its summer tour and AGM. This moves around the country looking at coastal issues, and we hosted it as Dorset Council, and we had 30 or so councillors and coastal engineers from coastal local authorities around the coast of England. A very successful tour. Several had not been to Dorset before, and it was a great chance to showcase all that we're doing. So a special thanks to all the harbour staff who assisted in the planning and delivery of this successful tour, as well as Dorset Coast Forum. And in particular, I'd like to thank Claire Connolly, who was an excellent tour guide at Weymouth Harbour on Tuesday afternoon. Thank you very much to all involved. We now move on to item 5, the Harbour Consultative Group minutes, and we're delighted to welcome Dave Caddy, Vice Chairman of the Weymouth Harbour Consultative Group, who's going to present their minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of August. And just before we start, as Bridport and Lyme Harbour Consultative Groups only meet every 6 months, they don't have a report for this particular committee meeting. So over to you now, Dave.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, we met on the 18th of August, so a little while ago. Hopefully, you've all seen the minutes of the actual meeting, of which there wasn't that much occurring. But one of the ones which was picked up in any other business was concerns from Andy Sargent and the RNLI over access along outside the King's Arms and the cafes over there with the alterations to the road, and sort of the concerns about the road train going along there, because they had a couple of shouts back just early part of August where crew were severely delayed in getting to the boat. This sort of led to one other thing that's been raised a couple of times, which is for the Harbour Consultative Group to actually have a member from Highways present at the meetings, because an awful lot of the harbour is affected by actions of Highways, but obviously they're not consulted back to the Harbour Consultative Group. And obviously I know that was something that you were looking into, Mark, to try and achieve that, and I'm not sure where that has got to at this stage even.
No,
I'll
bring a report to the next consultative group on that one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Outside of that, it's it's been fairly uneventful around the harbour, but access to boats from Highways is the main one. So I think that's all that I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members or any points? I would like to comment in there. We mentioned about the operation with personal watercraft and jet skis, and I would like to just mention that Dorset Council's Bridget Betts gave a submission in a meeting to Government Minister, particularly about the issues at Swanage, but also all the current issues with PWCs and jet skis. So delighted that we're on the national stage, and other councils have noted this and are in contact with Bridget to see what we have done here. So we're taking that forward. Thank you. Any comments from other members?
Chairman, there's a request to speak from Councillor O'Leary in the chat bar.
Yes, Louis.
Yes, thank you very much. I think the point around highways is really important. I've had a number of phone calls today, yesterday, and the day before, and last week around the works going on to the harbour and the proposed changes to particularly Custom House Quay. And I think there does need to be a greater liaison between the Highways Department, ourselves, and various harbour groups, because a lot of the issues that affect the harbour are relating to fueling, to loading bays, and to access to vehicular access to the quay. So I think there needs to be a move towards. I think actually, to be honest with you, I think having a member of Highways present at a consultative meeting on a regular basis is a really good idea, and I don't think it really should take that much persuading, because I mean, like I say, it is a really important issue down on the quay. I know there's a meeting today about it, for instance. So I mean, this no vehicular access, no commercial harbour.
Thank you, Louis. Councillor Ray Bryan, our the cabinet member for Place, of course, highways as well as harbours comes under his brief. So we have the ideal person to perhaps initiate some movement there. I know that Councillor David Gray had a question on highways. Is it an appropriate one for now, David?
Well, variation on a theme, Chair, picking up on Councillor O'Leary's point. I was in a meeting on Friday with Highways when I was staggered for them to say that the temporary railings are nothing to do with highways. They're to do with harbours, which is different than the answer I got 6 months ago. So I'm wondering whether there's an item coming up about liaising with Highways, given the changes that are happening on Custom House Quay and the TRO that's hopefully going to be applied for and work done. I was surprised that the temporary nature of the railings wasn't included in the TRO, and I'm wondering if it's not highways, then it must be harbours. So if I get the second lot of questions I get, other than access for fuel and a working harbour, is what's happening with the railings. So can I ask, what is happening with the railings, given that they are temporary? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I can't answer that, but I think the best thing is that I can ensure that there is an answer given to you as soon as possible after the meeting, David.
Thank you.
Any other comments about Dave Caddy's report from the Weymouth Consultative Group? If not, thank you very much, Dave, and thanks for your first introduction to the Harbours Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move on to item 6, the draft Harbours strategy for public consultation, and Ken Buchan is going to present. Oh, Karen, you have a question. Your hand up. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, Chairman, if perhaps we could delay consideration of this item, because we're still trying to get hold of John Selgren, to whom the decision would need to be delegated at the moment. So I don't know if you could perhaps delay this towards the end of the agenda until we can get hold of John.
Thank you. I hadn't realised he hadn't joined us. Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. We will come back to item 6, and we will now move to item 7, the Harbour Master updates. So we'd like to welcome firstly Weymouth Harbour report, and welcome Harbour Master Jamie Joyce, who is going to present.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll begin the report with the comparable statistics for Weymouth spanning 2018 to 2021. Of note is the excellent work carried out by the moorings team, whom have let out 335 berths and 90 commercial berths, which is a marked increase on previous years. This good work has also been emulated by the berthing team, whom, despite the COVID restrictions earlier in the year, have worked tirelessly over the summer to ensure the safe and efficient arrival of vessels totalling 4,369 visitor nights. The whole harbour team has been busy over the summer, with some 157 defects requiring remedial actions ranging from minor repairs to major flooding of the harbour office facilities through burst pipes in the adjoining building. The team have worked hard to ensure that there is a continuity of service delivery throughout all of these events. Regarding personal watercraft regulation, we have maintained a regulation in this area, resulting in 18 personal watercrafts to date being prevented from launching due to incorrect or unknown registration details of the owners or operators. Moves me on to safe and efficient port marine operations. We have installed signage across the harbour estate to improve safety and awareness, and most notably at the rowing ferry crossing. And this is to alert transiting vessels that they are approaching a rowing ferry and to give way to this service. This has also been actioned in the bay, and to improve the safety, 6 new marker buoys have been purchased to mark the designated summer zones for sailboards, anchoring, ski boat and PWC approaches. The buoys are larger and have clear wording on them to designate these zones and provide swimmers and other users with identifiable areas that can be seen from shore and whilst on the water. As stated in statistics, step 4 of the COVID roadmap recovery was implemented on the 19th of July and saw a surge in inquiries regarding visitor berths. The harbour recruited 2 seasonal front office personnel to assist with the increased number of inquiries during this period, and this coincided with the implementation of a digital booking system, which allowed customers to secure berths at their chosen times throughout the year. This has provided efficiencies in service provision by allowing the berthing officers to dedicate their time to safe and efficient berthing practices. Our customer feedback forms currently indicate that 70% of our customers are pre-booking their visitor berths and that the whole process was efficient. Investment has continued with our staff training programme, with 9 members undertaking marine and bridge operator training throughout this period. Moving on to conservancy, the results of the 4-year analysis of hydrographic surveys, which was commissioned to understand the specific areas of changing levels within the harbour, established that there was no change to a majority of the harbour, a minimal build-up in the rest of the harbour, on average between 0.2 and 0.4 metres. From this analysis, 2 sections of outer harbour have been chosen to create control depths for the harbour entrance and along commercial berth 1. This effectively sections up the harbour into established areas for volume removal calculations, and from this we can calculate year-on-year sedimentation rates and allow the harbour to forecast a dredging regime. Moving to environmental duty, our oil spill equipment was audited and tested on the 18th of August. From this, 2 inflatable spare sections of 25-metre boom were found to be defective, and replacements have been delivered to the harbour. These are the sections that are designed to be located at the harbour entrance and assist in the prevention of oil from entering the harbour. To complement this, an inflatable boom, a new 25-metre section of the more foam-filled oil boom, has been purchased to provide a quick and dependable means of oil containment and is equally suited to emergency deployment throughout the whole harbour estate. Our aids to navigation, we are currently working on a project to replace the harbour entrance lights with solar-powered lights with battery backup, and this has the advantage of being a fully monitored system to ensure the lights are functioning and at all times and alert us of any maintenance issues with the system. As commented, the pilotage directions have been amended to reflect pilot transfers will be conducted by Portland Port, and we have also completed a formal review of pilotage from Marico Marine to ensure that directions are still fit for purpose. The weather around the harbour has been good. The stone pier to the beach steps, which were dislodged during the easterly winds in mid-February, I can confirm have now been reinstalled. Moving to the harbour works. Following the Weymouth Harbour Consultative Group meeting in May, a request was made to investigate the increase of capacity of parking for commercial operators based around Commercial Road. Investigations were conducted with parking services and engineers to maximise the parking bays within this area. However, no further parking bays could be allocated within the current Loop car park. However, improvements in the Cousins Quay car park located alongside were agreed upon, and through reconfiguring existing bays and remarking these areas, the work has been carried out and resulted in 7 extra parking bays exclusively for the use of Loop car parking permit holders, i.e. commercial boat skippers, and 3 extra spaces for public use as well. Another project stemming from request from the Harbour Consultative Group is the lighting and power project along Commercial Road berths. I'm very pleased to announce that this work is being completed today by our contractors, and our commercial operators have been invited to utilise this new facility, which will provide them with access lighting and power outlets for this section of pontoon. The Peninsula development continues, and the Weymouth Quay regeneration project in particular, which covers the quayside from number 1 berth to ferry steps and supported by 3.8 million from the Coastal Communities Fund, can confirm that demolition is now complete and the construction phase will shortly commence with remedial works to the walls along Commercial Berth 1 and Commercial Berth 3, and that is hoped to take place at the end of October, but will be dependent on the supply of materials. Other works around the harbour. Weymouth Rowing Club have applied to the Marine Management Organisation to infill the floating pontoon next to their premises. This project aims to increase safety by providing a wider platform to embark and disembark from the rowing club vessels. An application has been made to the MMA as the total deck space of the whole pontoon is in excess of 30 metres, and a licence will be required for this project to proceed. Regarding the Harbour Revision Order, the authority by the Statutory Harbour Authority on 22nd of February 2018 to prepare and submit a harbour revision order to the MMA in order to modernise and consolidate the current dated legislation regarding to the harbour operations is in place, and a set of general directions covering the information currently contained within the harbour's notice to mariners has been forwarded to maritime legal specialists to advise on the content and assist with consultation with various maritime organisations. Once this has been assessed, it will be submitted for wider consultation. An update on the asset management plan. The Harbour Asset Management Plan year spend 21-22. A majority of our projects have now been actioned and are due to take place over the winter months. And finally, the maritime and local events. From July, the following events were able to be supported by the harbour. Swim rafts were deployed and retrieved. Swim the Bay event, the paddleboard charity race event, dragon boat racing, the August Monday night firework displays, and of course the Seafood Festival. Thank you very much for your time, and back to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much for a very comprehensive report, Jamie. I'm sure members may have 1 or 2 questions. May I have a brief one on the oil booms? When you say they're quick, could you give an idea of the sort of timescale if there was, say, a leak in the harbour, how rapidly we could deploy them?
That was the purpose of buying the foam-filled booms. They're able to be deployed off the roll-on, roll-off ferry infrastructure and taken to a position within the harbour by either the Pioneer vessel or the RIB vessel. So they can be actioned within 5 to 10 minutes and put in place within 15 minutes. So total of 20 minutes.
Thank you. That's very rapid. And I gather the Seafood Festival, the organisers were very pleased with the relocation to the peninsula. That was the feedback you got as well?
Yeah, the feedback was they were very happy at the peninsula, and they would indeed look again at whether they could use that venue for the following years.
Good. Any questions from members? Yes, David Gray.
Thank you, Chair. One comment really, and one question for Jamie. My comment is a compliment really. I think linked to the finance review and what Councillor Weller said, I can definitely see the effort that's going in by Jamie and the team there in the financial accounts. It definitely shows through, and the sort of linear thinking about the action plan moving through to the finance report. So I'd like to say well done to Paul and Jamie and Claire and Ken, because I think the financial accounts are starting to shape up really well. My question is on your update, Jamie, is you talked about sediment rates and what we might need to do for dredging. The bit that's missing for me is how much will it, we're putting, I think, 50,000 away every year. I haven't got any rate of spend yet. So when do we start? How much is it going to cost? Are we commissioning some sort of report at some point that will say we need to spend X in this part of the harbour? Is that on the forward plan somewhere?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, and we're actually working with Matt Penny's team. So Rob Clark has come on board with his experience from Lyme Regis and Bridport. And we are actually currently speaking with Emil Clark from the hydrographic surveys to come up with that plan and actually work out how much sediment needs to be taken away from the harbour. That's the purpose of designating separate areas for the harbour so we can calculate those volumes. And then based on that, we'll be able to predict financially what we need to achieve each year to keep these control depths.
Yeah, I think the thing that's missing for me financially is I've got no sense of what it costs to dredge. At some point, I'd like some background information about, what does it cost to dredge? I've seen the accounts from Bridport and Lyme, but Weymouth's a little bit different. So if somebody could think about that for just giving us some background information on how it happens, what sections are more important, how does the process work? But well done for the accounts, really good. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That's a very topical and very important question, and we will look at that for committee reports. Thank you. Are there any other? Yes, I can't see who. Someone has a hand up. I can't, unless that was David's. Are there any other questions for Jamie? I can't see any more. So thank you very much, Jamie. And we now move on to Bridport and Lyme Regis Harbour report, and welcome James Radcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. So the stats for Bridport, our season tickets have increased from last year, and our day launches are on target to be in line with previous years. The visiting boat numbers have increased from last year and are also expected to be similar numbers to previous years. The shop and boat repair service has been well used and are both up on previous years, although it has been difficult getting stock and service items with deliveries being delayed and many items are on back order. The diving compressor again has been well used by the commercial, but is down on leisure. And our mooring occupancy for leisure is 96%, with commercial at 100%. And for Lyme Regis, again, our season tickets have increased from recent years, and day launches are up for this time of year and are expected to be higher than previous years. Visiting boat nights have seen a massive increase this year, and the pontoons and visitor buoys were full on many occasions. Following the completion of the raised platform back in July, which allows the harbour users to park in the new area, this has seen a big increase on the quayside parking. The mooring occupancy for leisure at Lyme is 92%, with the commercial at 100%. The harbour works for Lyme Regis, the harbour and fisherman storage building. Our assets and property have appointed a builder, and we're waiting for the fixed price from them to come in. There is an increased cost due to changes in the plans and the rising of material costs, which means we need to apply for further funding. Once the fixed price is in, we will be applying to the Fisheries and Seafood Scheme, which is administered by the MMO on behalf of DEFRA. We're also still working closely with the Blue Marine Foundation to assist and accommodate the fishermen with their cold room and ice making equipment. The slipway and extension repairs. The platform was completed in June, and now the storage area is now used and is at capacity for tenders and kayak storage. There's also created parking for 30 vehicles, which has been very popular with the harbour users. This has been reflected on the income. The harbour office at Lyme and the Chandlery shop, we finally got permission to go ahead in early July, and we managed to open in mid-July. The income's already been reflected, and many customers have complimented us on the new addition. At Bridport, we still plan to do the timber piles this winter. We delayed it through the summer, so we weren't working through the summer period, but we hope to carry on this winter. And for the Divers Air Station, we're still looking for quotes, and we hope to plan to build that through this winter and have it ready for next season. Accidents and incidents, any issues? Signage has been improved at Lyme Regis on the slipway area on completion of the new area. We've also had gates installed and locked to reduce public footfall on the slip area to make it safer for the harbour users to manoeuvre around. The inner pontoons have been increased to assist with safer launching of vessels, and new swim buoys have been purchased and installed to mark the swim area. Aids to navigation at Bridport, both the entrance lights failed, and we've had to replace these with solar lights, and they're up and working already. Local events at Bridport. The powerboat event went ahead in May and was very successful and well attended. West Bay Days have ended up cancelling their events, but they do hope to hold a joint event with Bridport Round Table at the end of October, doing the bonfire by the beach. The RNLI events were cancelled. At Lyme Regis, the Sailing Club held their centenary sail past, and the RNLI week went ahead as planned and was very well attended. That's it from Bridport Online. Mark, back to you.
Thank you very much, James. Any comments from any of our members? I just would like to mention about the piles that are going into the West Bay Harbour, that we already have those. They were surplus or were removed at Bournemouth, and I think we were able to claim those free of charge, weren't we?
We bought them at a very big reduced rate.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. But they're ready to be installed. We're not waiting for any delivery of anything that would hold us up with the shortage in raw materials, are we?
No, we have them in stock ready to go.
Thank you. Yes, there is a question. I can't see who it is at the moment.
Mark, Lee Hardy.
Lee, please go ahead.
A question based on the report we've also just had from the Weymouth Harbour Master. Struck me that the hydrographic surveying and baselining that's taken place there is a really good thing to do. It means that future decisions, future requirements can be based on solid data rather than assumptions. Is a similar exercise planned for the Western harbours, or is it not appropriate in those harbours?
Yes, we survey. We do a pre and post dredge surveys each year. It's how we compare the calculations of the volumes removed when we come to do the final bills.
James, is that with the hydrographic survey? Is that done internally?
It's done with shoreline surveys, which is same as Jamie's using in Weymouth.
Right. Thank you for the clarification. Does that answer, Lee?
Okay, so we have solid data going forward,
yes,
for future decisions on surveying, when to do it, when not to do it, and so on.
Yes, we have. Yeah, we have many years at Bridport and Lyme for surveys.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any other questions for James? Otherwise, thanks very much for your comprehensive reports, and glad it's all going well. We have been receiving compliments about how well the harbours, and particularly the new storage area for the tenders at Lyme Regis, we've had letters written in. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I noticed that John Selgreen is now here, our corporate director. So I would now like to take the opportunity to return to item 6 on the agenda. Oh, I beg your pardon. Can we first note the reports from both the Harbour Masters? If all committee members are in agreement, I will take it that we are happy to note the reports. This is not a decision recommendation. If there's any dissent, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll take it that we're happy to note their reports. Thank you. And now, welcome Ken Buchan for agenda item 6, the draft Harbours strategy for public consultation. Ken.
Thank you, Chairman. My network connection isn't particularly great this morning, so I'll try and get through this, and hopefully you can hear everything I need to say. Last year, the Harbours Committee agreed that the development of a strategy for Dorset Council's harbours would be beneficial in setting the direction and priorities for our harbours, which would help steer future decision making and also inform harbour users of our future plans. Initial engagement with harbour users and the public through virtual workshops and online surveys provided very useful information, which has helped shape the strategy. This has been an iterative process with consultation through the committee and harbour consultative groups at different stages of the strategy development. And this has shaped the strategic goals and actions presented in the draft document. It's now proposed that we do a wider public and harbour user consultation to finalise the document. This will be done for a period of 8 weeks to allow as much time for feedback as possible, after which an updated draft will come back to Harbours Committee for approval. The recommendation in the report is that the committee agree to release the draft strategy for a period of 8-week public consultation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ken. Any comments or points from members? I would like to thank everybody who's contributed, including the 3 consultative groups, but also the members of the committee who formed the working group for the strategy consultation, who've put an awful lot of time and work into developing it, and also Dorset Coast Forum, who've been putting it all together for us and will continue to oversee the public consultation. Are there any comments from members? Because the recommendation is that we approve this draft consultation for it to go out for the 8-week public consultation. So any comments? I can't see any hands up. Oh, Louis, yes.
Louis, yeah.
Yeah, the first question is, before I talk about the statement, is what type of consultation is going to be carried out over the 8-week process? What form is that going to take?
Ken, can you?
Yeah, it would be similar to other consultations that are carried out by Dorset Council. The consultations will be publicised. It will be online consultation, as well as documents being available at libraries and so on. So we would look to publicise the consultation as much as possible. The Dorset Coast Forum website will also be used. They have a section of their website called Have Your Say, and we would also collect responses through that website as well. So it would be a questionnaire has been developed. There is a working group of the committee that is meeting tomorrow to discuss those questions that are to be asked, and the process and the timetable will be confirmed by the group tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you. The other thing is, so a strategic plan is to achieve goals, what we want for the harbour. Am I right on that one? Just for clarity.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So the mission is for Dorset to have a local authority harbours that are safe, sustainable and economically viable. Is that not the case already?
I think that they haven't been. Yeah, they haven't been. I think what has changed is the harbour revision order, and revision orders will also change the economic makeup of the harbours. In the past, the harbours have needed to receive assistance for major items, and we are looking forward to the harbours becoming as economically self-sufficient and viable as possible, that they continue to be the asset that they are to Dorset Council and to the residents.
I mean, and on that economically viable, and there is a measurable goal on that. The harbour is to become self-sufficient by, is it 2032? Off the top of my head, 2033. I mean, that one's measurable. I would say an awful lot of the other points in this strategic document are not measurable and are quite subjective. So better facilities, I mean, that's subjective to who, to various people.
Well, Louis, I think this is an ideal opportunity for you to make those comments on the consultation, for them to be considered by everybody.
Yeah, consultations are very nice, but I am also an elected member, and as elected member, I believe I'm going to raise some points in here. It also says things like strengthen relations with harbour users, but it doesn't lay out what the current issues with harbour users are. We talked about that today. I just think there's an awful lack of substance in some of these parts of this report, and I'm afraid it's been done. I feel as if it's been done from the top down, when things like this, I think, need to come from the bottom up. And I think, I'm a bit concerned the consultation process on this, it hasn't been strong enough. And I don't think the 8-week consultation, from the sounds of it and from what I have read, isn't going to be strong enough. So I'm a bit concerned about that.
Could I just respond in terms of the relationship that the harbours have with harbour users and building those relationships? That was something that actually came out of the early consultation that we had. We had the online survey, which had over 500 responses. We had around about 100 people participating in the virtual workshops early on. One of the key issues that came was the poor relationship with some sectors that the harbours had, and that's essentially why it's highlighted within the strategy, because we realise that there are improvements that need to be made there. In terms of the mission and the safe, sustainable, economically viable harbours, we recognise that the harbours aren't perfect. There's always room for improvement. We're held to account in terms of safety through various audits, through the Port Marine Safety Code and so on. Although we're rated particularly highly in terms of that, we've had feedback from our designated person to that effect. There's always improvements that can be made in safety, and as incidents and so on happen, we learn from those and develop that side of things. I think that there's been reasonable consultation through the development of the strategy. We've utilised the consultative groups who have gone back to their constituent organisations to get feedback. And the purpose now of the 8-week consultation is to encourage those that haven't had the opportunity so far to feedback to do so. And hopefully we can publicise the fact that we've gone out to consultation enough that people will take that opportunity.
In terms of strengthen relations with harbour users, though, how is that going to be measured? That's what my main concern on this document is. A lot of these things, we have completed by goals and and deadlines, but I'm just not convinced that a lot of them are measurable in an easy way, and we haven't set that out in the document.
I think, Louis, if you look at under one of the sections, the duty of the Harbours Committee is to achieve a balance between the sometimes varying and occasionally conflicting interests of different sections of harbour users. And that is part of the Harbour Committee's job, is to try to achieve a balance for all users, whilst noting that it is an asset for all Dorset residents. And we hope that the committee will be able to achieve that fair balance for all the harbour users. But I welcome your comments. I feel that the Harbour Consultative Committee, which of course covers all aspects of all three harbours, and everybody who uses the harbour has a connection through the Consultative Committee to make their points. And we've consulted we were very keen that the three consultative committees had the first sight of the original draft at the same time as committee members, and that we feel we have been very collegiate in our approach with harbour users. And Ken's detailing of the numbers involved in that, I feel that we have actually produced a draft strategy that is in line with the majority of the comments. Thank you, David. You've got
I'm sorry, no, I had one more question, if I may.
Yes, go on, please.
In terms of a sustainable harbour that's economically self-sustainable, is there going to be a detailed plan for that as part of this document?
This is a high-level strategy.
Yeah.
What you're really talking about is an operational matter, and there will be a harbours plan, a separate harbours plan.
So there'd be a financial plan to achieve the goal within this document separate to that would detail out how we're going to achieve to be self-sufficient in 2033.
Yes, that's correct, Councillor O'Leary. The one of the proposals within the strategy is to develop the business plans for each of the harbours, and indeed in the forward plan that will be I think it's at the moment it's scheduled for next year, September 2022.
September 22.
For discussion on the forward plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Thank you, Louis. David Gray.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Morning, Ken. I'm just I won't labour the point that Councillor O'Leary made, but in terms of I'm okay with qualitative versus quantitative measures in the plan. My only slight suggestion might be that we just put a little bit more explanation into the qualitative measures in terms of where we would get our view from. That's all I would say about that, but I'm really happy with that. In terms of the Councillor O'Leary's second point around the financial plan to achieve stability, I think probably some more explanation in terms of medium-term financials would be good. I know there's some stuff in the accounts, but actually if we could beef that up a little bit in terms of where our income's going to come from in a detailed way, I think that might help people. But my real point was I'm really happy to go out for 8 weeks. I think it's a good idea. Given that we've got a consultative group, one of the ways that we can help relationships with that is can we get them to really champion giving feedback to this? And what I mean by that is really, can they get it early? Can they go out to their members? Can they champion the fact that we definitely want their views? We won't change everything on a single view, but we will definitely listen. And I think this is an ideal platform for the consultative group to make a real difference to the future, really, by helping us get as much feedback as we can about the plan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. This is the public consultation. The consultative groups have, of course, had their early input.
Yes, I understand that. I understand that. It was more championing the fact that the public need to contribute.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, but I don't think it will be possible this time. It will be issued generally. I don't think it will go to consultative groups ahead of that general publication.
Okay.
But
okay.
I also think that members, we've talked a great deal, and Councillor O'Leary, and you referred to the consultative group. I think we do need to remember that there are 3 harbours, and of course all are equally important for Dorset.
Yes, apologies.
They differ in scale and size. I'm not sure. I can't see all the hands. Is there another question? I see
Councillor O'Leary would like to come back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Coming
Louis.
back on to David's point on the consultative groups, obviously you said they've gone out to their constituents or their groups to consult. Has there been any sort of look into how much they have gone out to their members? Because, you know, I'm a bit concerned that there has been criticisms of the consultative group in the past, and there's been concerns in regards to Weymouth. So have we measured how much these representatives have gone out?
I think that is for the consultative group to do. It's not for the Harbours Committee to monitor how the consultative group. They are a group with a chairman and a vice chairman, and they operate as a consultative group. It's not really for the committee to question how the consultative group. They have each member of the consultative group represents a different area or commercial activity within the harbour. And it is really, everyone should know who their member of the consultative committee is and should be able to make comments to them or backwards and forwards to them. But it's not really the Harbours Committee's role to take over the consultative group's role.
No, I agree with that. But I mean, you know, is every member of the consultative group elected by an association? Because the last time I checked, that wasn't the case. I mean, the Skippers Association elect a member, the clubs elect a member, but I don't believe every member is elected on there. So that doesn't make them a fully elected body.
I think, Ken, can you come back on that? I'm not sure that the sort of the format for consultative group requires elections for their member on the consultative group.
No, where there are formal associations, you know, they will put forward a representative. I would just need to check how many members that actually covers, and I'm quite happy to come back to Councillor O'Leary on that point.
Yeah, I'd welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the consultative groups, Councillor O'Leary, we encourage them at the meetings to go to their constituents. We made a very strong point that they should do that because we wanted to get as wide a representation as possible. But that's probably as far as we can go. I mean, the consultative group members understand that they have a responsibility and they are representative of their groups. So we can only encourage them to go out and to do that. And I guess we'll be able to gauge by the sort of responses and who we get responses from during the formal consultation as to how effective that may have been. And we can also try to get some additional feedback at our next consultative groups from the members to that effect.
Yeah, and obviously, as you will realise, that your particular interest in Weymouth, there are a diverse, for instance, the RNLI, they nominate a representative. It wouldn't be for us to ask the town council how they nominate their representative.
Well, that's elected. That person's elected.
Well, because there are such diverse bodies, it's really up to the bodies themselves, and trade associations or groups are notably sort of loose in how they associate, and it's not really for us to try to formalise this. It's if they don't go back to their membership for to get opinion, that's not really. The members of that group need to make sure that opinion comes through to us somehow, and they've had the chance in the consultation because it didn't have to come through the consultative group, it could come directly.
I agree with that. I mean, the thing is, though, if someone's not had a chance to go to their member and feedback, or their member hasn't taken those views on board, then they just go to the regular consultation, then they are in danger of, despite the fact they clearly have an interest in the harbour, being treated the same way as someone who can be in any area of Dorset Council, whether it be Gillingham or Sherborne, who, although they do pay tax within the county and they have every right to fill the consultation in, do not have much of an equal horse in the race as, say, a trader on the harbour. So.
What I would say is that the questions that will be asked from the consultation will ask people what their role is and whether they're a harbour user or not, or whether they're a resident, and it'll probably request a postcode as well. So we should be able to separate out those responses.
Yeah, and because I mean, this can't just be, these consultations on things like this can't be one man, one vote on this one. It has to be done on people's experiences, people's knowledge, and people's relationships to the harbour.
I think all answers are taken into account and will
All
be
answers, yeah, and they absolutely should be. But obviously, some answers are more important than others on things like this.
That is variable, Louis.
Well, I'd argue that the opinion of a fisherman in Weymouth is more important than, for instance, myself, who lives on the other side of Weymouth, say if I was an elected councillor who has no dog in that fight, I'd argue that fisherman's livelihood and his opinion is far more important and should be taken more than, for instance, mine as a regular taxpayer. And I think that should be something that's taken into consideration.
Thank you.
Which can answer that question.
Councillor David Gray, are you still got a question?
No, I've took my hand down. Thank you.
Right. Are there any more questions? Right, we now have a recommendation. It appears there are no more points or questions on this. We've covered it, I think, very well. So thank you for presenting, Ken. The recommendation is that the Harbours Committee agree to release the draft Dorset Council Harbours strategy for a period of 8 weeks public consultation. Are we minded to approve this recommendation, please? And I will take it online that unless there is dissent, I will take it that you do.
Chairman, I'd like to call for a vote actually on this one.
I'm not quite sure of the procedure for this, Ken.
I think we may need some guidance from Denise.
The vote can be taken by a roll call, Chairman.
I think we would need a seconder then for this recorded vote because we are live, so it will be recorded. So is there a seconder?
Well, there's a difference between a recorded vote and just doing a roll call for the purposes of the virtual meeting. And I think
point of order, is this not something that needs to be, is this not a recommendation to the committee that has to be voted on anyway?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Louis?
Is this not a decision on, is this not an item agenda that has to be voted on to go forward anyway from the committee?
It has to be a minded to decision that is voted, that is agreed by the corporate director.
Yeah, that's fine. But then we obviously give the guidance by a vote. I'm not after a recorded vote, but I would like a roll call vote on this one.
Seconded, Chair. Seconded, Louis.
Thank you. Right. Denise, can you do a roll call, please, of the members of the committee, and can they all say whether they are for, against, or abstain?
certainly, Chairman. Councillor David Gray.
For.
Councillor Rob Hughes.
For.
Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Against.
Councillor Mary Penfold.
For.
Councillor Mark Roberts.
For.
Councillor Sarah Williams.
For.
Lee Hardy.
For.
William Elwood.
For.
7 for and 1 against, Chairman.
Yes, so the recommendation is carried, and I now go over to John Selgren, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just struggling a bit with bandwidth this morning. Can you just confirm you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great. I need to keep my camera off because that appears to what just rocks the boat too much for the system. But thank you, Chairman. So let me just do that. So John Selgren, Executive Director for Place, and I have the authority to enact this minded to decision. So having considered the report that you've had before you this morning, having listened carefully to your debate on this item and to have noted the outcome of the vote that you have just taken, it is my decision to release the draft Dorset Council Harbours strategy for an 8-week period for public consultation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Director. Right, that concludes items 6 and 7. I know we changed the order. I think it would be appropriate now if we have a short break. It's 4 minutes past 11. If we could come back at about 10 past, 6-minute break, Would that suit everybody, please?
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. And we move on to now agenda item 8. So we welcome Matt Penny, the Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management Lead, who's going to give us an engineering update. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report before you is to provide an update to the committee on the activities that the Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management engineering team have been undertaking within the 3 harbours. So if I start in alphabetical order at Lyme Regis, the dredging for this year is complete, and much like that at West Bay, we're currently developing the plan for this coming year, so that scheduled for spring 2022, and we're undertaking discussions regarding the consents process, etc. For that. Inspections, so that's the asset inspections where we inspect the harbour walls, etc. That's scheduled to be undertaken this autumn in Lyme Regis. And repairs wise, with the cob structure itself and the walls around Lyme, it's a continual process of repair, so patching and repair. For future, we're looking to obviously carry out the larger scheme, the Lyme Regis Environmental Improvement Scheme, Phase 5, which focuses on the cob. And that is currently in a business case development stage. So we hope to submit that for funding approval to the Environment Agency either December this year or January next. And that is going well at the moment. On to West Bay. I mentioned the dredging was successfully completed this year, and we are looking to develop plans for next year. The inspections, much like Lyme, the asset inspections, much like Lyme, will be completed this autumn. And repairs to the harbour walls around the harbour ongoing. We're currently undertaking investigations regarding movement in the walls, movement in some of the walls, and engineers within the team are currently monitoring the area while we carry out those investigations with a view to carrying out remedial repairs based upon said investigations in future. Weymouth Harbour, again, inspections are currently underway there. We've completed majority of those. We've just got 1 or 2 more to finish up within Weymouth. And dredging was mentioned by the harbour master within his report. We're currently discussing that with him, for future. So as that develops, I'll be able to give you an update on that. Regarding the sort of repairs and capital schemes we've got coming up within Weymouth, the larger scheme for the FCRM scheme Phase 1, that takes us from now to 2040. We have, after this report was written, we've actually had approval from the Environment Agency for the strategic outline case for the scheme, so that's good news. So that was approved by Council Cabinet back in June, and the Environment Agency have subsequently approved it as well. So that means we've now got the green light to progress to the outline business case, the next round of funding stage, business case stage for that scheme, which is obviously good news, and we hope to start that this autumn. So the team are currently developing the scope of works for that outline business case. Harbour Wall D, all the works have now been rectified, I'm pleased to say, and I'll probably remove this item from my update because we consider as engineers all the minor defects that were left residual from the scheme and delayed due to COVID have now been rectified. So the lighting and the painting that needed to be done because some sections started to flake. So that's good news, and I'll probably remove that next report as a result. Harbour Wall C, which is the slipway around North Parade, that is currently moving forward. We've carried out some site investigations and they were successful. We got some good reports back from that. We are undertaking early contractor involvement there, discussing with the contractor about the methodology for delivery to impact the harbour as little as possible while we carry out the works. Those discussions are still ongoing, but we're hoping that construction can start November, if not December this year. Harbours Walls E and 9, as we call it, which are on the peninsula. tied up as part of the Weymouth Quay Regeneration Scheme, which was mentioned previously by the Harbour Master. Those walls are due to be repaired as part of that. My team have input into the design process, etc., and managed that element of it. But the overall scheme has been delivered by others at the council, other officers at the council. And on the peninsula as well, where the committee will be aware of the risk management measures that are in place along sections of the peninsula harbour walls. They'll remain in place, and we're currently in discussions with the Environment Agency around future funding for those walls and repairs for those walls, and indeed we'll have to take forward a recommendation to council about how we progress those walls due to their condition. Portland Harbour, not a council-owned harbour, but I was asked to include this because we are doing works along the shoreline there. The 5-year monitoring study we're looking to put in place is progressing well. We are currently discussing and looking to procure a specialist geotechnical engineering company to help us install and plan and install the survey equipment we need along this shoreline, and that ultimately is a view to stabilising that coastal frontage, that coastal slope, and protecting the Rodwell Trail, the gas main to Portland, and the properties that are landward of that. And the program they'll hopefully be installed this autumn for the next 5 years. That's my report, Chair.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive, and I'm delighted to see the map is very readable and clear on all the different designations. I know they're quite, and I know you have explained why some are numbered and some are lettered, depending on whether they're sort of concrete or stone or they're metal piling. And I think we're getting more accustomed to your reports and plans now. Matt, could you comment on how the refresh of the shoreline management plans might affect anything that we're doing with the flood and coastal erosion risk management?
Yeah, sure. So regarding the 3 harbours, shoreline management plans are overarching strategy documents for the coastline. They cover the entire English and Welsh coastlines, and they give recommendations and actions for activities, not necessarily capital works, but activities such as monitoring or survey along the entire coastal frontage. And obviously covering our own coastal frontage here. So the designation, what they generally do is they give you a designation for each stretch of coastline, and generally around the coastlines with the 3 harbours we've got, it's generally hold the line designations. There are others designation like manage realignment over X amount of years, but for our 3 harbours currently they're hold the line, and I don't see that changing as part of this update. The update is being led by the Environment Agency, but each shoreline management plan has a management group, and that group will feed in and steer the update for each respective shoreline management plan. So for our frontage here of the 3, I don't see the actual harbour and harbour entrances and certainly adjacent coastline with the urban areas behind being affected or changed. So they currently hold the line as they are, and I anticipate after the refresh to still be hold the line. I can't say for sure, but I don't anticipate there being any significant changes.
Thank you. That's quite a relief to know that hold the line is the anticipated outcome. Yeah. Are there any questions from members to Matt Penny? Very comprehensive report. I think you've answered everything there, Matt. So
thank you, Chair.
Members happy to note this report. There is not a recommendation other than to note. And again, if there's no dissent, I'll take it that we all have noted the report. Thank you. We move now on to item 9, the budget monitoring report, and we start with Weymouth Harbour, and that I suspect will be Claire Connolly as well as Jamie, but Claire will present, I think. Good morning, Claire.
Morning. Morning, everyone. This report has been written with the support of our corporate finance team. Paul is here today as well at the meeting, so between us, we should be able to answer any questions that arise. The budget monitoring for this report is a further improving picture from our last committee. We're expecting to move from a budgeted deficit of 290,000 to a surplus of 201,000, which will be transferred into the reserves at the year end. Of that, so that's a favourable of 492,000. Of that, 357 is made up of changes in the asset management plan and the review that we undertook a few months back. There was a fairly detailed report presented to you at the last committee. But if I just give a quick summary of how we've achieved those particular savings, there were some sale of assets, which obviously produced some income as well. We've extended the expected replacement date of some of the assets that we have, and some items were transferred into a budgeted routine maintenance programme so that we could carry out annual repairs and replacements rather than having a large commitment for a replacement in one particular year. Other changes that have happened from our previous reporting period are visiting yachts. Jamie mentioned in his report that we've had a really good season. Although we were affected in the initial part of the year by COVID restrictions, June, July and August have been really busy with numbers up by 7% on 2009. Customers seem really pleased to have the opportunity to pre-book a berth, and we've updated our feedback forms and we're getting some really, really positive comments on our customer service, which is just proving to be excellent. The other really significant change is the occupancy rates for our marina berths, which are exceptional this year. The number of berths occupied haven't been this high since 2012. And usually new applications start to slow down or almost stop at this time of year, but we're still getting a decent amount of new inquiries coming through. And again, we're continually getting some really positive feedback on the service that we provide and how the marinas are being managed. So that's all really good, positive news to hear. We have invested in our team with more training and some essential PPE, which turns around a little bit of an overspend in those areas. Any surplus that we have, as you know, is transferred to the harbour reserves at the year end. So the current prediction for the year end reserve balance will be 1.5 million. So whilst our financial picture is improving, there's still ongoing pressure on the harbour budgets, and it's really important to note the detail in paragraph 5 of the report, because that details how that reserve of 1.5 million is actually fully committed to refund replacement assets, including pontoons and maintenance dredging. So whilst it looks like a nice healthy sum, we need to be mindful that there is still a big pressure on it, and it's not there sitting idle. It's sort of well committed, and we'll continue to report on that and review the asset plan as we go on year by year. I think that's my main points on the report.
Thank you, Claire. Have members got any points to raise? It's Councillor David Gray.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I didn't have the intention of to keep speaking all the time through this meeting, but I just wanted to say once again, whilst I hear Claire's caution around the 1.56 million in reserve, and I note that it's a medium risk, and I agree. I think it's great to see the future, so I'd like to say great work by everybody. My question is a rather minor one. Is there any impact of the salary cost, by the way, well controlled by all three harbours? And I think that's a specific skill in itself. But are there any cost implications for the NI? I can't remember whether the NI increases are just for employees or whether there's a earnings contribution from employers. Is there any work being done on the number of, if there's any financial cost till the end of the year that we didn't budget for?
I think Paul will answer that one, if that's okay.
Yeah, hi. The national insurance increase will come into effect from 1st of April, so nothing for this year. Finer detail to be worked out, but my expectation is that costs for the employer's side will be funded from the corporate centre. I can't guarantee that, but that's my current thinking on it.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Yes. Good answer. Yes.
Yes. We'll note that one, Paul.
Are you waiting for a grant back from central government? Then is that the? Thank you.
That was a very good point, David. Thank you. Are there any other comments on what is a very favourable set of figures from Claire, and a very good explanation? Thank you, Claire. There doesn't appear to be any further points, so we'll move on now to Bridport and James Radcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. So the budget monitoring for Bridport, at this stage we're predicting a slight saving, and the expenditure variances is made up with saving on the pay cost due to the Harbour Master still covering 2 posts, higher costs on the premises with electricity and rents, transport cost, higher fuel cost and vehicle repair and maintenance cost, and then with the supplies and services, also with protective clothing and signage and equipment. With the income, we've seen an increase in the car parking income and shop sales income, and this is offset with the bad debt provision. There will be a reserve movement of the budget of the 25k for the inner harbour dredging, and that will be moved to reserves at the end of the season.
Thank you. Any comments about Bridport? And I know that reserve won't cover the full cost of the dredging, and it will depend a little bit if we can persuade the Environment Agency to use it as recharge for East Beach, which will help no end. Right, James, if we move to Lyme Regis then.
Okay, for Lyme Regis, we're also predicting a saving of over 8k, and this is made up with the expenditure, again with the pay saving on the Harbour Master post, but the extra cost on supplies and services with protective clothing, and also additional cost on contractor payments. The income is favourable with an increase in car park income. There's been additional income from filming work, additional income from visiting craft, although there's been a reduced income from launching and the harbour use. And this is offset again by the bad debt provision. There won't be a reserve transfer to reserves for the dredging, because it's already been used this year, dredging the pontoon area and the entrance to the harbour. And that's it for Lyme.
Thank you very much. It's been quite well reported in the local press about the filming that's coming up for Wonka, the Warner Brothers film, and the steamship that was towed into Lyme. And I did note in the paper that they were saying how well this would advertise Lyme Regis, but the Warner Brothers executives that we met that day were pointing out that actually it will be digitally altered to represent St Michael's Mount in Cornwall. So I'm not sure that people will recognise it as Lyme Regis when the film finally comes out.
No.
Any comments from any members on Lyme or Bridport finances? But again, looking very healthy. Thank you very much, James.
Right, thank you.
The recommendation for us is to note the current budget monitoring figures for all 3 harbours. Are committee members happy to note those? Any dissent, please? Otherwise, I'll take it that we're happy to note. Good, thank you. We now move on to item 10, the forward plan, and back now to Ken Buchan for presenting the forward plan.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So just a brief overview. Our 8th of December meeting, we'll have our annual setting of harbour fees and charges. So those will be considered and set at that meeting. We have an item to do with a harbour parking policy. So the committee will have to discuss how parking within the harbour estates will be managed in the context of the wider Dorset Council parking strategy, which is currently going through the committee process. And then also for the 8th of December, we've got our budget request for next year from full council. I do note, I've just noticed an error in the text there, which will be changed. It says requirements for 21-22 and should say 22-23. March meeting next year, we'll have had the feedback from the public consultation and an updated final draft harbour strategy to come back for final sign off by the committee. And then moving forward to June 2022, we mentioned earlier in response to Councillor Weller's question about the pilotage review, and that will come back to the committee in June 2022 for further discussion and consideration. Also in June 2022, with the harbour revision order for Weymouth having come into place, the harbour master is working on developing some general directions which will update the outdated bylaws that are currently in place, and there'll be some consideration of those at that June 2022 meeting as well. And then, as I mentioned earlier to Councillor O'Leary's query, it's proposed that business plans for each of the harbours will be brought to committee in September 2022 for discussion and sign off. And that's it, I think, Chair.
Thank you. I note that Councillor Sarah Williams has a question.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my camera's now working. Yeah, the question is for Ken, and that's regarding the harbour parking that's coming up on the 8th of September, because I noticed the report on parking charges is going to Cabinet on the 2nd of November, so that is after the report goes to Cabinet. And I mean, particularly, in West Bay or Bridport Harbour, there's issues with some of our car parks being on harbour land. So how's that going to feed into report? Because I know there are some issues currently in West Bay regarding parking, particularly at Pier Terrace and around that area.
Yeah, the idea here is that because the car parks fall within the harbour estate, arguably the Harbours Committee have that potential to set the parking charges for those particular sites. However, it is important that we consider how that aligns with the wider Dorset Council strategy proposed across the Dorset Council car parking sites. You run the risk of if your charges are set lower, you encourage additional traffic, and that it may not be compatible with where those car parks are located, and vice versa. If you set them too high, then do you discourage people from those car parks, and then you have an impact on other Dorset Council car parks that are located close by. So it's just about alignment and consideration about the best way to manage charges and manage the car parks going forward. Yeah. That's the concept behind it.
Yeah, I think most of the issues are around, certainly in West Bay, around permits. So if I could possibly have a discussion outside this meeting with yourself and James regarding that, it would be useful prior to, well, next week, possibly sometime.
Yeah, we can arrange that.
Thank you very much.
And also, just as a point for committee members, there are some designated areas within the harbours for parking for harbour users, like for launching and stuff, they may not come under this same alignment as the general car parks. That may be still an item for committee members to look at in the scale of charges. Just a pointer if people were wondering about such as the new parking area at Lyme on where the slipway, where we've moved the tenders over, there's increased car parking for harbour users, and that may well be agreed to be at a non-aligned rate.
Thanks, Mark. That's particularly what I was getting at, both at Lyme Regis and at West Bay, and there's probably issues at Weymouth as well regarding that.
Yes, thank you. Any other points from members on the forward plan? I think I hope we're covering everything other than there may well be some urgent items that crop up during the next few months that we may have to add to the plan. But I think we have the basis of covering what we need to do through the formal committees. Are there any other points on this for Ken or for the committee? It appears that members are content with this. There is a recommendation. Well, no, sorry, there is not a recommendation. I think we just note the forward plan, and if everyone is content with that. That was item 10. Item 11 is urgent items, and there are no items of urgent business. And item 12 is exempt, and there is no exempt business. So that, I think, actually in very good time concludes this morning's Dorset Council Harbours Committee meeting. Has anyone else got any comments to add or any last minute points? If not, I thank you all very much for your attendance and for all the points and questions that have been raised, and all the officers for very comprehensive reports. So thank you all very much. We look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.